Welcome back to another episode of Ask A Clutter Boss, the internet best weekly decluttering advice show. I am your clutter boss for today. I am Jes Marcy, and I am so excited to be here again answering your questions. We have a playlist of all of our previous episodes on YouTube. So if you've missed any, you can go over there and check them out. This is episode 31. Remember, if you have questions in the future for Ask a Clutter Boss, you can email them to our support team, support@clutterboss.com. You can post them into one of our Facebook groups. If you're in a program with us, you can reach out to a coach and leave your questions with the coach. Just make sure we see them. And let's dive into today's questions. The questions were extremely long this week, so my team has taken them and consolidated them into shorter questions so we can get right to the point. The first question is, how do you deal with emotional issues and limited space when you're decluttering? Okay, so we have emotional issues, we have limited space, and we want to declutter. How do we deal with that? And this question was like 4 paragraphs long. Which is great. I love all the context. It makes it easier for me to answer the questions. When you're dealing with emotional issues, in this case, we have PTSD and depression were the 2 emotional issues that were listed, and limited space, and you're trying to declutter, it can feel extremely overwhelming. The most common thing that I hear about clutter and decluttering is that I feel so overwhelmed, because when you're looking around and there's this endless pile of to-dos, right? That pile in the corner over there is a pile of to-dos. The laundry is a pile of to-dos. The dishes are a pile of to-dos. Everything is just a big pile of to-dos, and you don't even know where to start. Plus, it's a struggle sometimes to even get out of bed. It's a struggle to even show up for your day. Where do you start? How do you start to tackle the overwhelm? I think we spend a lot of time searching for the perfect starting point, the perfect order, the perfect system, the perfect schedule. Perfect does not exist. There is no such thing as perfect. And what is quote unquote perfect for you today is not going to be perfect for you tomorrow, because tomorrow you might wake up feeling a little bit differently than you do today. You might feel better, you might feel worse. Your circumstances are going to shift over time. My life circumstances shift on a daily basis. It feels like our schedules are changing constantly. Just things happen. So having the perfect starting point, the perfect system, the perfect whatever it is, schedule, order of events, it doesn't exist. We need to stop searching for perfection and just start. Just start. It doesn't matter where you start. That's totally the truth. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you start with your dishes. It doesn't matter if you start with your clothing. It doesn't matter if you start with the pile of boxes by the garage. Just start. Just start. Starting is the key. And as somebody personally who has dealt with a lot of emotional issues and mental health complications, I truly know how difficult it is to just start. But I also know that you can do it. You can do it. You can tackle some single thing today. You can tackle a single thing tomorrow. And it is those tackling of those little tiny things that ultimately add up to what feels like you've made some progress. So another thing, there's no such thing as perfection, and progress feels hard to see right in the instant, or doing a little bit, you're not going to see the progress immediately. So instead of waiting to see progress, can you feel that progress? Can you be satisfied with the fact that you did something? And that is so much better than doing nothing, because you are taking a step forward towards that life that you're trying to build for yourself. When you do feel that motivation, go with it. Ride that wave of motivation. A lot of times I hear, and actually I think there's somebody in the comments here who last week was working on one area, but felt really motivated all of a sudden to work on a different area. And this is a common question. Is it okay to shift gears? If I'm working on this and I'm supposed to be doing this and this is my goal, but I really, really want to work on this, can I shift gears? Is that okay? My answer to that is yes. Ride that wave of motivation. If you're feeling stuck on the project that you're trying to do because for whatever reason you have deemed it to be the highest priority project, but this other project over here is calling your name and you think you can make a lot of progress on it, go do that. Go do that. You write your rules. You decide what you do first. Go do that. Ride the wave of motivation, because when you get stuff done and you're motivated to get stuff done, it does feel great and it does bring more motivation in. So ride that wave of motivation. I find it harder to declutter when it's a beautiful day. I totally get that. And I think that when it's a beautiful day, we should take advantage of that beautiful day. We only live this life one single time. If it's a beautiful day and you're finding it hard to stick to the decluttering, go outside and enjoy the beautiful day and come back with a clear mind, with that rejuvenating feeling of being in nature, and tackle something, right? Just use that as your motivation to get a smaller project done. Um, Decluttering, the point of decluttering is to make it easier to enjoy the beautiful days. But does not mean that you need to declutter before you start enjoying those beautiful days, before you start doing the things you say you're going to do. I think it's actually better to do them both at the same time in parallel. So, if you have this sentence that you're saying, when my house is organized, I will do X. When I'm done decluttering, I will have time for X. That X should be a priority in your life right now, because there's always going to be something that has to get done. It is never the right time for anything. So live that life, live that X, right? Do the X and do the other thing. There's no sense in waiting. There's no sense in waiting. We have this one life. Enjoy the beautiful day. And I think when you start really living the X, right? Doing the thing, you really start to understand how insignificant the stuff is and how it is okay to let go of the stuff. You start to feel it and experience it differently. So I think that it does actually enhance your decluttering efforts in the future. If you're going back and forth between decluttering and gardening today, it is really helpful to stick with something. Go garden, and then come in and do a little decluttering. I find myself stuck in the should I do this or should I do that moment, right? Should I exercise? Should I work? Should I cook? Should I clean? What should I do first? And I really just have to like make a point to not stay in that indecision, because indecision means nothing gets done or everything gets done at a half amount, right? So don't hang out in indecision. And this really goes back to decluttering. Decluttering is a lot of decision making. When you choose to garden over decluttering and you go with it, you are confident in that decision. That confidence in making a decision is going to translate right back to decluttering. So when you're faced with a question, should I toss this? Should I keep this? What is the right answer here? You're building that. It's not that you're building the decision making muscle, it's that you're building the confidence in your decision making muscle. We all make decisions. Choosing to not do something is a choice. I've seen that, and I've said this before, that decluttering is a lot of delayed decisions. It's a delayed decision, but you're still making the choice to delay that decision. We're very good at making choices. We're not very good at feeling confident in the choices that we make, which is why we choose to put off the ultimate decision, but we're still making that decision, right? So anytime that you can make a decision and be confident in that decision, choose gardening today. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to spend my day outside enjoying nature, and I'm going to be okay with the consequences of those decisions, right? I'm going to be okay that I chose this instead of that. That translates right back to making decisions about what stays and what goes. I'm going to be okay letting this go, even though I spent money on it. I'm going to be okay letting this go, even though I might need it in the future. I'm going to be okay letting this go, even though I don't know the perfect spot for it to go to next. I'm just going to make a decision and be confident in that decision. And the beautiful thing about decluttering is that you're really building these confidence skills. And this is how, I think we talked about this recently. This is how decluttering is empowering because you're building that confidence. All right, that was very tangential. let's let's move on to the next question here. Can you share effective strategies to let go of items? Okay, there is not one right way to declutter. There is not one right way to let go of items. And there is not one right way that's going to be perfect for you all the time, right? So we have to figure out what strategy works best for me today. What strategy works best for me in this moment? In general, the best strategies are the least complicated ones, the ones with the least amount of steps. This is why I'm generally opposed to spending a lot of time selling something because there's so many steps involved to selling something. You have to find the item, you have to clean the item, you have to photograph the item, you have to upload the item, you have to create the listing for the item, you have to come up with a price for the item, you have to monitor the listing, you have to respond to questions, you have to agree to a price, you have to agree to a location to meet somebody, you have to assume they're going to show up. They're probably going to haggle you more. They might not show up. And then you have to go back to square one all over again. There's so many steps involved with selling something. And the more steps involved with anything, the less likely we are to do it because it's that overwhelm. It's too much. It is too much. So I think the best strategy is the simplest strategy. How can you most easily get something out of your house? We're going to get rid of any sort of shame or guilt that we have around throwing stuff out. If that is the best strategy for you, it is okay to throw your stuff out. It is okay to throw your stuff out. When we declutter something, even if we spend hours finding the perfect home for it, once it leaves our possession, we have zero control over what happens to it. None. Zero. So there's a good chance that it's going to end up in the garbage. In fact, there's a definite chance that everything is going to end up in the trash one day. 100%. Every single thing that we own, the homes that we live in, the cars that we drive, the shoes that we wear, everything will end up in a landfill one day. That is the cold hard truth. If you need right now to let go of something, and the easiest and fastest and simplest way for you to do that is to throw it into the trash. You have permission to do that. When it comes to the environmental side of things, the best thing that we can do for this earth is stop consuming so much. Overconsumption is destroying the earth, not overthrowing it out. Everything's going to end up in the trash one day. It's overconsumption that is the problem. It's very difficult to make what we would consider to be logical, ethical choices about what we're consuming when we have so much overwhelm from the stuff in our homes. When we're so overwhelmed that we don't even know what pile to start on, how can we possibly spend time and do the research to make us feel comfortable with our purchases, right? The overwhelm takes the time away and takes the energy away from making good consumption decisions. So really, by putting your stuff into the trash and reducing the visual, physical, and mental overwhelm in your house, you're going to be able to make better decisions about consumption in the future. That's actually an environmentally friendly thing to do. The best strategy for letting things go is the easiest and simplest thing for you to do. What do you have time and energy for right now? That's the best strategy. It doesn't matter where you start. I know there's certain methodologies that insist you start with your clothing. That might not be the best spot for you. Find easy and let go. And actually the next question was, do you have suggestions for selling belongings and is it worth the time and effort invested? Generally, I don't think so. But if you want to do a math equation, we do actually have a should I sell it calculator the way the should I sell it calculator, it's like a downloadable resource that we have on our website. But the way that that works is you want to start valuing your time. So put a value on your time. So we are very used to valuing things in how much they cost us, like how much money they cost us, how much we think they might be worth. Well, okay, instead of wondering how much that blanket is worth, how much are you worth? How much is your time worth? So, one way that we can figure this out, I'm going to actually put a dollar value on your time. One way we can start to figure this out is, of course, if you work, there is a dollar value on your time. And that's your time doing a job for somebody else, right? So when we're putting a dollar value on our free time, we want to put a much higher value on that because our free time is inherently more valuable than our working time because our free time is when we can do things for us. Free time, we have less free time typically. Free time is worth more. So if you have a job, you could say, okay, I make $35 an hour. So if that's my hourly rate for working, my free time amount that my time is worth is at least double that, at least double that. Although it could even be like 10 times that or 100 times that. How much is 1 hour of your free time worth to you? Let's say it's worth $100. And it's going to take you 3 hours to sell an item for $20. 100% it is not worth selling that item. It is not worth it. Get that out of your house as quickly as you can. Let it go. Get back that time. Buy back your time. How can I understand why I have clutter? This my why. What is my why? If I understood my why, I think it would help me bring less stuff in the future. If I understood why I have clutter, then I could move forward tackling my clutter. First and foremost, you do not need to understand why you have clutter to start tackling your clutter. Often, the experience of decluttering reveals the why, and there's never just one why, there's always many whys. But the process of going through the decluttering is going to reveal the why to you if you keep working on it. If you want to accelerate this, if you feel like you really need to know the why, I there's a couple of things you can do. Of course, we always recommend work with a therapist, but I understand the process of finding a therapist and getting to the point of discussing why I have clutter. That can take a long time also. So here are some things that you can do to accelerate the process. Number one, as you are decluttering, feel the emotions. Feel the emotions that come up. You touch something and it brings back a memory, and that memory is not maybe positive, or even if it is really positive or whatever it is, journal those feelings, write them down. You don't need to keep the journal, you don't need to keep the sheet of paper, but jot down what you're feeling and see if you can figure out why you're feeling that way. Does it go back to an experience you had in your childhood? What does it go back to? That's a good starting point for figuring out your whys. Another thing that you might do, and this is involves a little trust and vulnerability, ask somebody close to you, why do they think that you have clutter? As a coach working with a lot of clients, it's usually fairly obvious to me when I hear their stories and when I hear all the background, it makes there's a lot of whys that I hear. It's pretty obvious to me like why they would be struggling with clutter. But it's not my job to tell you why. It's your job to understand your own whys. So if you have somebody who you really trust, a friend, a family member, who you can be vulnerable with, you could consider just asking them, like, from your perspective, why do you think that I have clutter? Maybe and be open to this answer. Like maybe they have a reason you never thought of before. Maybe they can shed some light on something. And it's probably not going to be 100% accurate because only you know your own whys and only you can with accuracy say this is why I have clutter, but maybe they have an idea that can kind of lead you on that path to understanding. A lot of times, the reason we have clutter is something that might feel painful. So I think, tend to maybe know our own whys, but we don't want to feel the pain of the why. And that's just something to keep in mind. Like this could be a painful answer. And if it is, are you ready to deal with that emotionally? And if you're not, that's okay. You don't have to. You can just keep decluttering. And when you're ready to deal with it emotionally, you can walk down that path. but you don't need to know why you have clutter to start decluttering. And the decluttering process will reveal a lot of whys. And okay, so sometimes the whys are also not that not that painful or big. Sometimes the reason that you have clutter is because you had a life experience that took all of your time and you didn't have time to deal with this stuff and now you do, and it is just that simple. You need to just make up for that lost time because you were dealing with something else really important. um that's a, a common why also, but there's usually more than one why, and the process could be exhausting to go through. Once you get to the other side in a really supported way, it is very freeing. So I think it's worth going down that road, but just with those little caveats, it might be tough. So, but you are also a clutter boss and you can deal with this. If you have discovered your why or a why, you feel okay sharing it, that might be helpful for somebody else too, because a lot of times our whys are kind of similar. So just throwing that out there. I have a doomsday mentality that leads to stockpiling items, especially food. Do you have advice on how I can manage this and live life in a less cluttered environment? Yes. Okay. I think for all of time, we have been thinking the world is going to end soon, or there's going to be some giant disaster, or something is going to happen. And at different points in history, that has been true. Right at this point, right now, stockpiling resources is so easy. It is so easy. It has never been easier. But is it really helpful in the case of doomsday? I really recommend focusing on developing a skill set instead of developing a stockpile. If you have skills to fall back on, whether it's doomsday or not, you know that you can take care of yourself. So, is there a skill set that you can develop to make you feel okay about a doomsday situation instead of having the stuff? And then it's also so important to be realistic about these doomsday mentalities and scenarios that are prompting you to collect a lot of resources. What is the most likely doomsday-ish scenario that's going to happen in your life? It's probably a natural disaster. By and large, natural disasters, when they happen, the more stuff you have, the more difficult it is in a natural disaster. I mean, hurricanes, wildfires, floods, all of that stuff. The more that you have, the harder it is to actually deal with the natural disaster. So, being super realistic about the most likely doomsday scenarios can be helpful when you're figuring out how to declutter and live within your space and also deal with your doomsday mentality. I think it's okay to stockpile a little bit. I mean, we are humans after all. This is how we have gotten this far in life. Um, but just be really realistic. How much space do you have? And at some point, is your stockpile less? Is it creating a more dangerous environment than the actual possibility of having a doomsday thing happen? Are you creating a fire hazard in your house? Are you creating a tripping hazard? Is it possible that things are going to fall on your head when you open up a cabinet? Like, are you creating a dangerous situation in an effort to deal with a dangerous situation? Honesty with yourself really matters here. And I would be super, super, super clear on what exactly you're prepping for and what really would be the safest thing and the most, like, what really do you need? Okay, so 5 things that you can declutter right now. It's our wrap up segment. I'm going to challenge you this week to declutter a big item, something that is just like an old couch that you just need to get out of the house and haven't been able to, an appliance that's broken, a big item, a piece of furniture that's broken. That's the big challenge this week. Figure out a way to get that out of your house. Maybe it's a desk, a metal desk, a big giant item. Let's, instead of doing 5 items, let's do this. Declutter one big difficult item from your house this week. Figure it out. Get somebody to haul the trash away if you need to. You can get a friend. You could hire somebody. Figure out decluttering one big item that is driving you crazy. get it out of your space. We'll count that as 5. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And looking forward to seeing everyone next week, same time, same place for our live Ask a Clutter Boss. As usual, if you could like, comment, and share on any of our social media, it helps our small business so much. It's deeply appreciated. If you have a friend who would like this content, go ahead and tag them. Sending you lots of love and strength. You are a clutter boss, and it is time to prioritize your sanity. Have a great day, everyone.